Hi, thanks for joining. This is Bill Quinn. We're going to replay an excerpt of Patrick Byrne and Emerald Robinson speaking on her show. And they talk about the discoveries, the announcements, if you will, the disclosures on some of the dynamics surrounding the 2020 elections and even the elections beyond. So I wanted to make sure that people had a chance to hear this. There will be a lot more on this as we go forward. And I think folks need to have the opportunity to listen to this, discern what your beliefs are, what your other data suggests about what happened during the 2020 elections and more current elections, and then be able to have this in hand as you make those judgments. So here we go. Let's hear what they had to say.
Through the United States. It's the worst attack on the United States in history by a long shot. It was almost completely successful. And they can't, in my view, I would be deeply disappointed in President Trump. I would have been if he had let them buy their way out of that with a nice deal for the U.S. on some gold fields or donors or something. So it's good that I get this, he senses, I sense he feels the same way. What they did to us is so extraordinary. Something has to be done that for 250 years, when people think about doing something like this in the United States again, they remember what happened to Venezuela. This is insane that Rick Grinnell is trying to patch this over and has been trying to patch this over and smooth it out. Oh, but the U.S. will get such and such oil fields. You're kidding me. This is 1,000 times worse than Pearl Harbor. They don't get out of it by giving us some drilling rights. Secondly, I have to say I'm very pleased with Marco Rubio. I was concerned about Rubio. I liked Rubio when he emerged years ago, and I always thought he was smart. But Rubio had in his background some people who actually are linked to the cartel. David Rivera, his college roommate's in prison now for washing money for the cartel. So I worry that he might be soft. I was completely wrong, since he has really laid to rest any doubts I had about him. He's been hard like a nail on we got to do what's right about these guys. And by the way, what the world's going to find out is Venezuela is the cancer. Venezuela is the cancer of Latin America, and all kinds of lefties and centrists that the world knows about, men of the people, the Kirchners in Argentina, the Peronists, they took $700 million from the cartel. The Danny Noriega and Danny Ortega in Nicaragua, he took like 350 million from the cartel. So these men of the people are out there are leading their people into immiseration and oppression, while they themselves are getting fat off these bribes from the cartel. They have corrupted Latin America, and they almost corrupted the U.S. They almost took us.
Well, and I want to get to the more blockers that perhaps have been, like you teased something we know and hope could be published within the next 24 hours that would shed more light on what we're talking about exactly right now. But let's talk about the CIA, because it seems to point that many of our CIA assets have been corrupted, perhaps bribed, have been flipped. We kind of knew that. We just didn't know by whom. I think we thought it was just China back in 2020. Remember, you talked about John Ratcliffe. He was the acting director of national intelligence during the election of 2020. He was supposed to put out a report on foreign interference, right? We knew there was a Chinese component of this. China and Russia are allies of Venezuela, but our intelligence agencies got into the middle of it and said, you can't put out this intelligence related to China. They said, they agree it's happening, but they don't want Trump's campaign to memorialize it on the record, was what one whistleblower recently told me, and said the CIA absolutely stopped this intelligence from being shared in 2020. Ratcliffe knew that. He's now 2025 running the CIA, leading a lot of those people who stopped him from really doing his job in 2020. And nothing's been changed. These people we've not gotten rid of these people. It's the people who did this in 2020 and have probably been compromised by Venezuela and Cuba are still there. And they are currently blocking this intelligence, or actively trying to block relevant intelligence from still reaching the president, I am being told.
Absolutely. And I'm not one to, I mean, this isn't being vindictive, but the American people have to know they've been blocking all the emergence of this truth. Even when Trump came back into power, they were blocking. They were blocking that process that started once the Venezuelan whistleblowers got interviewed. They blocked it from moving forward. Once the information was all put together and they had the whole picture, Tulsi was ready, I was told, to deliver a scathing report, soup to nuts, by early July. And there was another 2-month delay. Well, they didn't want the report to say that they learned about this in around 2007, these capabilities. Barack Obama and John Brennan started using it in July of 2009. They set up an Arlington, Virginia NGO called SEPS. George Soros staffed it. The CIA funded it through USAID, $5.9 billion. And they spread this junk technology from the Philippines to Netherlands and everywhere. You know how in the Netherlands, the government's like shutting down farming and the people are all against it, but they keep on electing these lefties. They're not really getting elected. They're getting elected on Smartmatic equipment. It's an overthrow. It's genius.
Okay, so those are some of the comments that we're hearing coming from Patrick Byrne and Emerald Robinson. We expect that we're going to continue to hear more on this. One of the most concerning things that we believe are in here is the fact that Trump, even today, may not be receiving full, complete, truthful information on the findings, even if some of those findings go back for years. So we believe that this will continue to be a very important facet in all of what's going on with regard to elections. And indeed, if you listen to Patrick Byrne and Emerald in their previous comments, they will tell you that until this gets resolved, we cannot expect valid, trustable, provable elections within the United States. We'll be back with more as it occurs. Thank you for being with us today.